So this is available on GitHub. It's directly by Meta or by Facebook. I don't know why it's listed as Facebook. I think they distribute everything as Meta now. But it's available out there, and it's a great, nicely documented API. So I'm going to go ahead. Well, first of all, realize that there's a paper there, right? And you're welcome to read the paper to understand the underlying, what's going on underneath the hood. But really what you want to do is you want to click on the Get Started for whatever language you want to work on, right? Because here's the first thing I want to establish, right? Can I install this? Does this work in a language and in an environment that I'm familiar with and I'm comfortable with, right? So the first thing I'm looking for is yes, they make it available in Python, and the imports are pretty straightforward, right? It's telling me that this is the import statement and that pandas is one of the dependencies. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? I think most people who have done even a little bit of work in Python have already done work in pandas, right? It's hard to do data work without pandas, right? And then they also show me an example of the data, of the type of data that they expect, right? They're giving the date, right? Or the date in the series, right? And I think that's what the DS denotes, the series. And they're giving the Y value. And that's it. That's the only data that you need, right? So let me get some audience participation here, guys. Okay, I know we have quite a few people in the chat. So what is a Y? If you've been attending the ISL classes, you should instantly know this. But you might know this already on your own, right? There is a name for the Y variable, right? And in some ways, there's kind of a name for the DS variable in this situation, although it's a little bit unique. But can anyone tell me what the Y variable, the Y column here is known as, right? I'll give you guys a minute to think about that, but there's a name for that. And by the way, guys, I see people still joining us on Instagram. If you want to go ahead and join us on YouTube, it's a little bit easier to see the classroom view. I am Data Science with Dennis on YouTube. So feel free to, switch over there. That way you can see the entire screen because I am showing things on the screen. Okay, good. Joseph got it right away. So did Hamad. Anybody else? All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think most of you guys get it. Okay. Nayan says Y variable is called the target or independent variable. Wonderful. I like the use of target there. One take Fizzy says independent variable. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I read that too quickly. So Nayan, you got it backwards actually, okay. So Nayan corrected themselves. A dependent variable. Yep. Yep. I like that. The Y can be referred to as either the dependent variable or the target variable, right? So for those of you that aren't comfortable with those terms yet, it's basically what we're trying to predict. What is it that you're trying to predict? What is it that you're trying to find, right? So that Y variable is what Prophet excels at. Give me the dates. Give me the time series, and I will tell you a prediction for Y, or the dependent variable, the target variable. That's essentially what Prophet excels at. And the great part about it, or arguably the not so great part about it, is that this is it. This is the entire data structure that you need in your input files. This is it. It's just two simple columns. But thanks a lot for the participation, chat. You guys are on the right track. So good. Okay, so the documentation, and we're still in the quick start here, right? The documentation goes on to tell us about how to do a fit. Here's how we do a model fit, right? We can assume, because we know pandas, that DF refers to a data frame. They don't explicitly say that, but they've already given us what our data frame should look like above. And here's how we fit it. Right? Again, for some of you that aren't comfortable with these terms yet, usually in APIs and in libraries, when you hear the word fit, you should be thinking about training. This is where it's training an initial model. Okay, so fit is like training. And then here, it's telling us how we can do a future instance, a prediction, right? It's telling us that the future is, it's setting the variable future, and it's using a method called make future data frame for how many periods you want to predict into the future. And then here you're just printing out the tail, because this returns a data frame, and then you're asking it to show you the tail of the data frame, which is the end of the data frame, right? Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is telling you the periods that you want to create predictions for, and then down here it's showing you how to actually do the prediction on however many dates you chose. Right, so I apologize for that. In the top section, it's how many dates you want to create predictions for. They have to be in the future, and then here is where you're actually doing your prediction. And then if you're still a little lost, you might be wondering what the M stands for. M is the instance of profit that we established in an earlier piece of code, right? The point here is not to say, great, I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to start working with it. The point here is to verify that all of the methods and all of the code that you need for your general data science process are present and you understand them, right? Because we're gonna have our data, we're gonna look at our data a little bit, we're gonna do ideation, we're gonna try to create a model, right? We're gonna try to fit a model, we're gonna try to train a model, so we know we have fit functions that are available, and then eventually we'll land on a good model, and we want to know how to use it to make predictions, right? Our runtime predictions. And we have those components here, right? So we're not making any judgments yet. We're not thinking ahead to the projects. We're just verifying that we have our understanding of the API fits the methodology that we want to apply. All right, you guys with me on that? I think it's fairly straightforward so far. If you're a little lost, that's okay. Join the Discord, get some help there from the community. Come and learn on the Sunday classes that I'm running. But I think that most of everything I've covered right now is digestible for most of you. All right, so we know that Profit has some potential as a well-documented tool. We verified that some code is available there that we can use. How do we install it? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to look in the installation, and we're going to say that we're Python people, but you can also be an R person. Profit is available in R. So, I would point you to those sections. There's an installation in R, but then down here, there's also an installation in Python. And it looks pretty straightforward, right? It's a pip install. It's a pip install, which means it's out there on the repositories, and it's also out there on Conda. If you prefer to manage via Conda, I prefer pip. You can actually mix the two if you want to. But it's also verifying that I have to use it at least on Python 3.7, which is a reasonable ask. I think most people are way beyond that by now. Actually, way beyond that. 3.7 is a while now. But all the requirements are there for us to work with it. We know how to install it. We know how to instantiate it, right? What imports we need. And then we know that we have a fit in a prediction portion for it. And that's it. That's all we need to know at this stage, right? We're not getting ahead of ourselves. We're not jumping ahead to ideation or anything like that. We just want to make sure that it's a viable library for us to implement in our process, because we're never deviating from our process, right?